Not all of you, but many of you are Republicans. And even those of you who aren't may find this interesting. I can go on and on, talk about myself, don't get me started. I'm just not going to do it. I leave that to others. But listen to this from the National Journal today. House Republicans are quietly discussing a proposal that could fundamentally alter the way future speakers of the House are chosen, according to multiple Republican sources, with the objective of avoiding a repeat of John Boehner's embarrassing re-election vote in 2013. Now, keep in mind, he won, but he was challenged, and you're not allowed to challenge the speaker, you see. So what's going on here, and I'm going to get more into the weeds in a moment, they don't want any challenge to the Republican establishment. None. Zero. Even within the Republican caucus. So crush the Tea Party. Those memorable words by Mitch McConnell. Boehner trashing the Tea Party. So they want to close these primaries. Overwhelm citizens who dare to challenge the pathetic, useless Republican establishment. Then, once they're elected, up on Capitol Hill, within the caucus, they want to prevent any challenge to the leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, this is tyranny. Tyranny within the Republican Party. And you're supposed to just close ranks all the time. I'm not the one dividing the Republican Party. These damn backbencher fools who've climbed their way to the top through cronyism, cutting deals, not because they're statesmen, not because they're special, because of the opposite. Because they've been hanging around long enough. They're the ones destroying the Republican Party, and they're contributing to the destruction of this nation, because we need a vibrant, fresh party to take on the left. Let me continue. This rule tweak began as an informal discussion, but has morphed into a concrete proposal that's beginning to circulate in the House. According to people briefed on it, any Republican who votes on the House floor in January against the conference's nominee for House Speaker, that is, the candidate chosen by a majority of the House Republicans during its closed-door leadership elections in November, would be severely punished. So you elect a Republican to the House of Representatives to represent you. And what the majority in the Republican Party in the House, pushed by the Republican so-called leadership, are saying to you is, screw you. Once they're here, they belong to us, and they fall into line. And whether they like what we're doing or not, if they do not vote for Boehner for Speaker, guess what happens? They're stripped of all their power. Too bad Boehner doesn't treat Obama this way. Too bad Boehner isn't as concerned about the Constitution as he is about that big gavel he waves around between crying sessions. Is that not unbelievable? Any dissenters would be stripped of all committee assignments for that Congress. In other words, they wouldn't be able to sit on any committees to represent you, the people, because they refused on the floor of the House to vote for John Boehner. I'm not voting for John Boehner. Are any of you voting for John Boehner other than some people in his district? So rather than more transparency, rather than opening up the system more, they're centralizing it and controlling it with an iron fist. Just like a bunch of commies, quite frankly. Yeah, because John Boehner's God's gift. And what would we do without John Boehner? Hello. Anyway, yes, that's my John Boehner. At the same time, this is the National Journal, according to sources, conservative lawmakers are discussing something of a counterproposal. Now, under their plan, the November leadership elections would be pushed back until after the lame duck session of Congress ends in December. In other words, so the losers and the retirees don't get the vote for the next speaker. That would make sense to me. This idea was described by one House conservative as a preemptive strike to warn leadership not to consider any significant legislation during the 15-day period between November's midterm elections and the start of the new Congress in January. Now, we discussed this before. So in addition to using an iron fist to prevent anybody you sent to Congress to challenge Boehner or to vote for a candidate other than Boehner for Speaker, they have strategically set the continuing resolution until into December rather than January when the new Congress comes in, so they can get all their pork barrel spending through, so all their lobbyist friends, the Chamber of Commerce buddies and everything, so they can deliver for them for all the money they gave them to defeat you in the Republican primaries. Compare and contrast. Look at what Reagan was saying. A new Republican Party, a party of ideas, a party of principles, a party that relates to the common man, the common woman, a party that reaches out to blue-collar Democrats, a party that stands for families and individuals, for free markets, for capitalism, for economic growth and opportunity, versus these quislings who are good at one thing and one thing only, scheming among each other. And not against Obama, we could support that, but against conservatives. They talk about we conservatives want a purity test. Reagan answered them. I've answered them. We don't seek purity. They seek purity. It is they who insist on choosing every single candidate for the Senate and the House. It is they who say no. Not even 1, 2, 10, 25 members of the House are to vote against the Speaker. It must be unanimous. It must be unanimous. And you thought you sent a member of Congress there to represent you. And so, this is the effort that's underway. Even when plenty of members are upset, you see, about what happened in 2013. Why? What are they upset about? They got their Boehner. They got Johnny. And he's been swell. You know, they just voted for the continuing resolution that funds Obamacare and Planned Parenthood and all the rest. Almost all the Republicans fell in line. What are they complaining about? They're all set up to go to Wall Street like Eric Cantor, or K Street like Trent Lott and Denny Hastert. Trent representing the Russians, Denny Hastert representing anybody with a checkbook. Cantor, Wall Street, man's going to leave there in 2 years with $3, $4, $5 million for doing what? Nothing. Access. This is not why I joined the Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen. This is not why I have been an activist to support this. This reminds me of what goes on in Red China on the Politburo, in Russia around that fascist and so forth. This is not right. This is not the kind of republicanism, or democracy if you prefer, that the framers had in mind. They expected a citizen legislature. They expected these guys would go home after a period of time. They never go home. Reagan talked about fresh faces, young people coming into the party. Pat Roberts is in serious trouble. He could cost the Republicans the Senate. Man was 74 years old. He's been in Washington, D.C. for 42 years. Rather than step aside and allow a young guy like Milton Wolfe, a guy with ideas, a guy who could run, a guy who would advance the Reagan tradition and conservative principles, they sought to crush him and destroy him. The National Republican Senatorial Committee, McConnell's committee, which is now running around begging senators and everybody else for money because they spend all their money attacking conservatives. Trent Lott, what's the idiot's name from Mississippi? Thad Cochran. There's no way in hell this man should be in the Senate. Should be up for election again. The guy barely remembers how to put one foot in front of the other. And that's the truth. I don't think McConnell should be picking all of our senators. I don't think the National Republican Senatorial Committee should be picking all of our senators. And now these states where they ought to be slam dunk victories, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, we may win them, we may not. Some of them are too close to call. Why? Why should they be too close to call? Pryor in Arkansas, Landfill, a.k.a. Landrew in Louisiana, they voted for Obamacare. They're down the line. Obama sycophants. These are southern states. Why is it even close? And if we can't win southern states, or if they're close, how the hell are we going to win northern states? Yeah, it's Mark Levin's fault. It's conservatives' fault. Are you kidding me? Like hell,